The book of Judges begins with a solemn scene, a moment steeped in history and divine significance. The Israelites, having crossed the Jordan River and witnessed the miraculous fall of Jericho, found themselves at a place called Bokim. This was not just a geographical location but a spiritual crossroads, a place where their faith and commitment would be tested. It was here that the angel of the Lord appeared, not with words of congratulations or praise but with a stark reminder, a declaration of a covenant broken. The appearance of the angel was a divine intervention, a moment of reckoning for the people of Israel. The angel reminded them of the promise made to their forefathers, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. These patriarchs had walked with God, had trusted in his promises, and had been assured of a future for their descendants in a land of abundance. He spoke of the covenant, the sacred agreement that bound God to his people, a promise to bring them into a land flowing with milk and honey. This land was not just a physical territory but a symbol of God's provision, blessing, and faithfulness. But the Israelites, standing on the precipice of this promised land, had already begun to stray. Their hearts were turning away from the God who had delivered them from the bondage of Egypt and had guided them through the wilderness with a pillar of cloud by day and a pillar of fire by night. The angel's words were not accusatory but laced with sorrow, reflecting the heart of a God grieved by the actions of his chosen people. It was a moment of divine lament, a sorrowful acknowledgement of the people's unfaithfulness. Their actions were not merely a breach of contract but a betrayal of a relationship, a turning away from the one who had delivered them from slavery and led them through the wilderness with unwavering faithfulness. This betrayal was a deep wound, a rupture in the divine human relationship that had been forged through trials and triumphs. This divine confrontation at Bokim serves as a stark beginning to the book of Judges, setting the stage for a tumultuous period in Israel's history. It was a time marked by a cycle of disobedience, consequence, and redemption, a pattern that would repeat itself throughout the narrative. The story of Bokim is a poignant reminder of the fragility of human faithfulness and the enduring mercy of God, a theme that continues to resonate thousands of years later. The lessons from Bokim echo through the ages, calling us to reflect on our own commitments and the covenants we hold dear. Following the Israelites' encounter with the angel of the Lord at Bokim, the narrative takes a poignant turn with the passing of Joshua. A faithful servant of God, Joshua led the Israelites into the Promised Land, securing victories against formidable enemies and overseeing the division of the land among the 12 tribes. His leadership was marked by unwavering faith and obedience to God's commands. He reminded the Israelites of their covenant with God, urging them to remain faithful to the one who had brought them out of Egypt and into a land of their own. Joshua's death marked the end of an era, leaving a void in leadership and a generation that had not personally witnessed the miracles of the Red Sea or the crossing of the Jordan. This transition would prove to be a pivotal moment in Israel's history, testing their resolve and commitment to the covenant. The question lingered: would this new generation, raised in the relative peace and prosperity of the Promised Land, remember the lessons of the past and cling to the God of their fathers? With Joshua's passing, the Israelites entered a period of spiritual decline. The generation that had witnessed the Lord's mighty acts firsthand was fading, and a new generation, unfamiliar with the wilderness wanderings and the conquest of Canaan, arose. This new generation, born in the relative peace and prosperity of the Promised Land, began to lose sight of their covenant with God. The allure of Canaanite culture, with its fertility gods and rituals, proved too tempting to resist. They allowed the ways of their pagan neighbors to infiltrate their own, embracing idolatry and forsaking the worship of the one true God. They intermarried with the Canaanites, adopting their customs and practices, allowing the line between the sacred and the profane to blur. What began as subtle compromises gradually morphed into outright rebellion. The Israelites, once a people set apart, began to resemble the very nations they were meant to displace. Their hearts, once filled with gratitude and awe, grew cold and indifferent to the God who had delivered them. This turning away from the covenant, this gradual erosion of faith, would have dire consequences for the Israelites, plunging them into a cycle of sin and suffering, a stark reminder of the cost of spiritual apathy. Section 4. The Price of Infidelity, Consequences of Disobedience. This section delves into the profound and far-reaching repercussions that befell the Israelites as a result of their disobedience to the covenant they had made with God. It is a sobering reminder of the cost of infidelity and the heavy price of turning away from divine guidance. The Israelites' drift from the covenant did not go unnoticed. Their gradual departure from the path laid out for them was observed by many, both within and outside their community. This drift was not a sudden event, but a slow erosion of their commitment to the laws and principles that had once defined their identity and purpose. Their disobedience, their embrace of idolatry, and their disregard for the laws God had given them brought about a series of consequences that shook them to their core. The allure of pagan worship and the seductive practices of neighboring cultures led them astray, causing them to forsake the commandments that were meant to protect and guide them. The book of Judges paints a vivid picture of the turmoil that engulfed the Israelites as they faced the repercussions of their actions. This period was marked by a cycle of sin, oppression, repentance, and deliverance, highlighting the instability and suffering that came with their disobedience. Their enemies, whom they were meant to drive out, rose up and oppressed them. These adversaries, once seen as conquerable, now became a constant threat, exploiting Israel's weakened state and lack of unity. The Israelites found themselves besieged on all sides, their land and resources plundered by those they had failed to expel. Forgetting the strength and deliverance they once found in the Lord, they found themselves at the mercy of those who worshipped false gods. Their cries for help, once answered by divine intervention, now seemed to fall on deaf ears as they continued to stray from their faith. The Philistines to the west, a formidable and relentless foe, took advantage of Israel's vulnerability, launching raids and incursions that further destabilized the region. The Moabites to the east, emboldened by Israel's weakened state, also seized the opportunity to invade and subjugate the Israelites, adding to their woes and suffering. And the Canaanites to the north all took advantage of Israel's weakened state, subjecting them to raids, plunder, and subjugation. These relentless attacks from all directions left the Israelites in a state of constant fear and insecurity. The very land that flowed with milk and honey, a testament to God's faithfulness, became a battleground, a constant reminder of their broken covenant. The once fertile and prosperous land now bore the scars of conflict and neglect, a stark contrast to the promise it once held. They experienced famine, drought, and economic hardship, their cries for help echoing unanswered as long as they remained entrenched in their idolatry. The natural calamities that befell them were seen as a direct consequence of their spiritual failings, further deepening their despair. Their disobedience had not only severed their relationship with God, but had also plunged them into chaos and despair. The social and moral fabric of their society began to unravel, leading to internal strife and a loss of communal harmony. The consequences of their actions served as a bitter harvest, a stark reminder that faithfulness to God was not merely a matter of religious observance but a matter of survival. The withered crops and barren fields symbolized the spiritual barrenness that had taken root in their hearts, underscoring the vital importance of maintaining their covenant with God. Section 5. The Cycle of Sin and Deliverance, the Role of the Judges. As the Israelites faced the consequences of their disobedience, the book of Judges introduces a recurring theme: the cycle of sin, oppression, repentance, and deliverance. This cycle is a powerful reminder of the human tendency to stray from righteousness and the enduring mercy of God. Each cycle begins with the Israelites falling back into idolatry, abandoning the worship of the one true God for the allure of pagan deities. These idols, often representing fertility, wealth, or power, seduced the Israelites away from their covenant with God. This spiritual adultery invariably leads to oppression, as God allows their enemies to conquer and subjugate them. The Israelites' disobedience results in their suffering under the harsh rule of foreign powers, a direct consequence of their turning away from God. It is in their despair, when all hope seems lost, that the Israelites remember the God of their fathers. The weight of their suffering brings them to their knees, and they begin to recall the mighty deeds God performed for their ancestors. They cry out for deliverance, their hearts heavy with remorse for their infidelity. Their prayers are filled with sorrow and a genuine desire to return to the path of righteousness. It is in these moments of genuine repentance that God, in His infinite mercy, raises up judges. These judges are divinely appointed leaders, chosen to guide the Israelites back to faithfulness and to deliver them from their oppressors. These judges were not merely political or military leaders, but individuals chosen by God and empowered by His Spirit to deliver the Israelites from their enemies. They were endowed with wisdom, courage, and the ability to inspire their people to rise against their oppressors. They came from diverse backgrounds, some from humble beginnings, others from positions of influence. Regardless of their origins, each judge was uniquely equipped by God to fulfill their mission. Deborah, a prophetess and judge, rallied the Israelites against the Canaanite general Sisera. Her leadership and prophetic insight were instrumental in securing a decisive victory for the Israelites. Gideon, a reluctant leader, overcame his doubts and insecurities to lead a small band of warriors against the Midianites. His story is a testament to the power of faith and the importance of trusting in God's plan, even when it seems impossible. Samson, blessed with supernatural strength, waged a one-man war against the Philistines. His feats of strength and his ultimate sacrifice highlight the complex nature of his character and the profound impact of his actions on the Israelites' struggle for freedom. Each judge served as a vessel of God's grace, a testament to his unwavering love for his people despite their repeated betrayals. Through their leadership, the Israelites experienced periods of peace and prosperity, only to fall back into sin once more, continuing the cycle. The stories of the judges are not just historical accounts but lessons for future generations. They remind us of the importance of faithfulness, the consequences of disobedience, and the boundless mercy of God. Each judge's story is a chapter in the larger narrative of God's redemptive plan for humanity. Today, as we reflect on the role of the judges, we are called to examine our own lives. Are we faithful to our commitments? Do we seek God's guidance in times of trouble? The legacy of the judges challenges us to remain steadfast in our faith and to trust in God's deliverance, no matter the circumstances. Just as God raised up judges in ancient times, He continues to raise up leaders today. These modern-day leaders, inspired by the same Spirit, work to bring justice, peace, and hope to our communities. They remind us that God's work is ongoing and that each of us has a role to play in His divine plan. The role of the judges is a powerful testament to God's enduring love and faithfulness. It is a call to action for each of us to live lives of integrity, to seek justice, and to trust in God's unfailing mercy. As we honor the legacy of the judges, let us strive to be vessels of God's grace in our own time.